Hello everybody, this is Hockey Pones and you are watching a shift-by-shift video of 2015 draft-eligible forward Dylan Strome. As with all of my previous shift-by-shift videos, this is not a highlight reel. This is intended to look at a player objectively, so you can see his style of play and how he does in regular game in and game out situations. If you want to see highlight reels, there are plenty of other channels on YouTube, so you can always look there. This may be less exciting, but more informative, at least in my opinion. So let's get on to the game. This is the second video I've commentated on, and the first one I feel was a little bit of a spectacular failure. As one YouTube member pointed out, it sounded like I was making a video on an animal documentary. I felt I was about as enthusiastic and monotone as Ben Stein, and my wife pointed out that I was pretty monotone. So I was trying to focus so much on timing and getting commentary right and making remarks on what was happening in the game and pointing out where the player was that kind of lost a lot of panache or attitude to it. So I wanted to take a different approach here. The first difference you'll see in this video is I've actually decided to add a little bit of a marker on the player in question, which is Strome, and you'll occasionally see a little gold bar light up underneath him just in case you lose him and then you can find him again. If you haven't noticed Strome yet, he is number 19 in the black and gold. And if you haven't noticed also, Erie already has a 1-0 lead. Spoiler alert, Erie goes on to win this game 7-1. In this win, Strome had 1 goal and 3 assists. And I usually try to find games for these players when they do have good statistical output for these videos. I know I said that this isn't a highlight reel, and that's part of the reason why I want to find good games for these players, because I don't want to come across as having any kind of agenda one way or another, because I started trying to find videos where these players have successful nights, and I think it would come across as disingenuous or dishonest if I were to pick good games for some players and bad games for other players. So I just want to try to make it as fair as possible, trying to find interesting and good representative videos of these players. And I really wanted to get a video of Strome during this time period because, as some of you probably know, Connor McDavid, he's the top prospect of the 2015 NHL Draft. He's injured, and so a lot of people are having criticisms of Strome, of him being a product of playing on the same team as McDavid, and so myself, I don't have any bias one way or the other. I think that a lot of these players have gotten as far as they are on their own merit, but some people disagree, and so I wanted to give an opportunity to have you see the player without, quote, riding on the coattails of Connor McDavid. Anyway, on to some observations. One of the first things I noticed that struck me right away about Strome is he has spectacular vision and a lot of patience with the puck and good awareness. In this shift, he broke his stick, and instead of running to the bench to try to fix it, or not fix it, but to get a new stick, he quickly rushes back to try to neutralize the outnumbered attack. If you're not aware of some of the traits I do look for when I look at these players and evaluate them, I do really like competitiveness and vision or hockey sense, however you want to label it. That's fine with me. And utility, two-way play. If I haven't mentioned competitiveness, that's something I really care about. I don't look so much in terms of raw puck skills, although Strome does definitely have some really nice puck skills and puck controlling and protection ability. But some of those can get overlooked, or depending on the type of team he goes to, those can be corrected, or the system can be fixed to work around it. So you can still be successful without having great puck skills or great skating ability. Let's see. I believe Strome is actually going to score a goal here in just a second as he picks up the rebound. Yep, there he goes. The other thing I do, which is slightly different in these videos, or at least in terms of my analysis, is I try to avoid with labels such as upside, or I try to avoid making comparisons to individual players, like, oh, this is going to be the next Kopitar, or the next Malkin, or the next Crosby. And, I mean, they're all spectacular players. But I think that by comparing prospects to players, it creates this unfair expectation of how the players should either A, develop, or B, turn out in the long run. And I just don't think that that's a fair way to look at these players. I mean, if a player doesn't turn out to be Malkin, but turns out to be someone else just as good, then, well, not as good, but less spectacular, I mean, does that mean he's a disappointment or a failure? That's just not the way I like to judge players. So when I make my evaluations here, I try to make them based off of what teams would be a good destination for a player to go to, because some players have a particular style of play, and I just don't think they would thrive as well on certain teams as they would on other teams. And for example, with Strome, I think he doesn't play a very structured game. You don't see him battle along the boards. He's not an overly gritty player. He has size, but he doesn't use it a whole lot, which doesn't make him a bad player. That's just his style of play. So I don't think that he would go well on a team like Los Angeles or St. Louis or Boston, or any teams like that, where there's a very high level of structure, or a lot of grittiness involved. He kind of is, I don't want to say free spirit, but he just doesn't have that same structure that those teams demand. And so I don't think that he would thrive as well on them. Some teams that I think would be good fits for Strome, well, he would probably play really well on the Islanders with his brother Ryan Strome. I think that they don't have a very rigid system, but they do have some good puck movers, and they're very, what's the best word? I mean, they're a strong offensive team, so I think that would be a good fit for him. I think Chicago is very good at producing a similar caliber player, and they're very good at developing those kinds of players. Excuse me. And another great team would be Anaheim. They have big players, skilled players, and that's exactly who Dylan Strome is. And so I think that he would fit in well with their core players. And finally, another team I think would be a good fit would be the Edmonton Oilers. Now, I don't think that it's a good idea for them to draft another forward, or they get a lot of criticisms for drafting nothing but forwards, and this is probably going to piss off some Edmonton fans, and I apologize ahead of time, but right now I think that Edmonton is not a very good organization, period, in terms of developing any players. And I think that if they do implement some better staff members to actually work on developing players and having a better system, I think that Eakins and a lot of the coaching staff is garbage. Sorry. But if they actually have a better system and developmental staff in place, I think that Strome would go really well with the core players there, such as Hall, Draisaitl, Nugent Hopkins, even though Nugent Hopkins isn't very big, but they're all very highly skilled players that, for the first few years of their professional lives haven't had to play a very structured game. So I think that it would be a good fit if they could actually get their stuff together. So I apologize if I offended any Edmonton fans. The ones who disagree with me are probably pissed off by me saying how I feel. The ones who do agree with me are probably tired of hearing it. So, sorry. Anyways, you can see by now it is 4-1, and I haven't really commentated much on what Strome has done. He already has 1 goal and 2 assists, and he was on the ice for the 1 goal against that Sarnia scores. I mentioned earlier that I really value utility and two-way play, and in this shift in particular, Strome is out on the penalty kill, which I really like to see. And that kind of brings me back to some of the points I was talking about in terms of things I like about the players. Strome, he is killing penalties, so that shows at least the coach trusts him enough to get some time during the penalty kill to try to kill off the penalty, and they trust his defensive play enough. And that's one thing that I think the coaches should be doing. I mean, this is a developmental league, and I think that this is as good a time as any to try to hone your awareness on the ice to kill penalties and learning positioning, and I think that Strome does a good job handling this situation. Competitiveness is another thing I mentioned that I highly value, and it's going to come across like I'm saying that Strome is not competitive because I don't know the guy. I don't want to make a character judgment, and I think that would be a bit unfair. But considering he doesn't throw his weight around, he doesn't move his feet around a whole lot, this is something that I definitely think he could work on. I think that he's a very patient person, and he has very good vision, so he may not have to have that high motor that other players have to do. But as he matures and he plays against more difficult competition, and once he reaches the NHL level, he's not going to be able to afford, I don't want to say shortcuts, but he's not going to be able to afford not to hustle. This is now the tail end of the second period, and as you can see, Erie is now on a 5-minute power play after a charging major. I have also said that I really like respect and honesty with players, and there's not anything particular about Strome where I feel he's respectful or honest. I mean, he doesn't dive, which I noticed, at least not in this game, and that I can appreciate. But I mentioned in my previous video that in terms of respect, I think that is something that you see when you have an opportunity to hit a player and you can take him out of the play without taking out the player. And since Strome's not very physical, you can't really see that. At the end of this particular shift, there is going to be another power play goal. As you can see, there's still quite a bit of time left on that 5-minute major, which originally was incurred towards the end of the second period. And Strome gets his third and final assist of the game in this shift. And we'll see it in just a moment here. So, I guess the question that comes to mind now is, how do you people evaluate the players when you see them? Obviously, I'm looking for certain things when I see these videos, and I can only make the assessments based off the footage that I get. So I don't know how other people, laymen, or fans of the game such as myself also look at it. I've heard various people say that they look at puck skills or skating ability and things like that, and I've mentioned before in the previous video in terms of skating ability how I think that is such a correctable problem, and it's something that plenty of successful NHLers have been able to overcome, such as Luke Robitaille. He was able to score quite a few goals without being able to skate at all. So, how do you people look at the players? I'm still trying to take this as learning experience for myself, and so I'm hoping that you'll be able to enlighten me and help me improve not just myself in terms of being a better evaluator of talent, but also to provide higher quality videos. Anyway, gosh, I gotta hurry because we're already 15 minutes and 39 seconds into the video, and I haven't given a whole lot of analysis yet. So, with Strome, I've already keyed in a little bit in terms of what I like and what I don't like. What I don't like is he doesn't throw his body around a whole lot, even though he's a bigger kid, and he doesn't move his feet around a lot. And these are things that, depending on the team he goes to, he'll either sink or swim. If you were to go to Boston or Philadelphia, those kinds of teams that, throw their weight around quite a bit, or the Kings or St. Louis, he's going to struggle, and that's plain and simple. But I do like his vision. He does have very good instincts. He is a very patient player with the puck, although I think at times he's a little too patient. I think that as some players, they look really good in junior or in the international level because they have so much time with the puck that they're able to make nice plays, and then once they get to a higher level, it's like, oh my god, they have no time, and they then struggle, and it takes a while for them to make that adjustment. And I think that's what we may see with Strome as he reaches the higher levels. But, as I said, he has very good vision, he has a lot of good patience, he passes the puck well, he controls the puck well, and with what little I've seen, he seems to be an honest player who doesn't dive or do any types of embellishment like that, which I can value, or which I can appreciate. Anyway, the biggest thing I think that we should take from this is we don't, but Dylan Strome does not need Connor McDavid to be successful. He does it very well on his own. And this is the last shift for Strome. Erie scores 2 more goals while he is off the ice, and that's it. So I want to say thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'm looking forward to having you watch some more. Take care.